Hello and welcome to the most exciting new project of 2022. It is a Cooperlydenisalone podcast that is starting in response to yet another podcast I have, Dissolving. Sissy Boys with Matt LeGrand, Dan Donahue. As far as I know, it's done. And so now this is my new venture. I am running up that hill like Kate Bush. Did I find out that the podcast is dissolving hours ago? Yes. Is this podcast a response to it? Somewhat. Have I wanted to do it for years? Yeah. So I feel a little bit like a divorced person right now. And I feel like whoever's listening to this right now, you're my child. I feel like I'm a single parent and I'm looking at you and I'm saying, listen, it's not going to be the same. They're not coming back. It's just us right now. We are all that we have, and we gotta be in this together because I'm alone in my room. I have no one else to play off of. Am I good at doing this? Probably not. But have I had a history of having podcasts with people that eventually dissolve? Yeah. So maybe I'm probably the problem, I'm realizing. I'm having a lot of fun on all those podcasts, but I'm starting to think that I'm the problem. So at least now I am my own problem. That's not bad. So anyway, I thought it'd be fun to talk about anger stories. I have massive anger issues. It's a big part of my life. But luckily, anger is equal parts funny as it is scary. That's kind of, I think that's how people usually get through dealing with people with anger issues, is that you kind of do have to laugh at it to a certain extent. Because if you're like just in the market punching boxes of Fruit Loops, that is scary. Is it also funny? Yeah. So you really just pick a side with it. And I guess that's how you live the life of a person like me, where you either have people that are like, I cannot be around him, he is not stable, or they're just like, that's just Cooper, and those are most of the people that I hang out with, I would say, that they see. Because also, to really be friends with somebody with anger issues, you can't, I think, take them too seriously. So it's like a double-edged sword, where it's like if they took all of my anger seriously, they'd be like, I can't deal with this, So they have to sort of look at you as like a little angry bear cub, you know what I mean? They're like, all right, he's crazy, but is he 5'9", 150, relatively little guy? Yeah. So do we have much to be worried about? No. I don't own a gun. I don't think I could own a gun. I take mood stabilizers for bipolar 2. I feel like if you go to a place and you want a gun, you tell them that, and then they look at my face, I think they'll be like, I think they'd still sell it, but I do think there would be a beginning where they're like, fuck, I'm going to sell the guy that shoots up a place a gun. I'm definitely not going to not sell it because I want to make money off of this AR. But boy, do I... it's almost like being a drug dealer, I guess, of just being like, I'm definitely going to sell this guy fentanyl right now, and it's definitely not going to go well. I think that would be like buying a gun for me. I think even the most like fucking red-blooded American NRA give everybody a gun. I think if I walked into the shop, I would look like enough of a pansy with anger issues that they'd be like, he's not hunting, and he also doesn't have friends to go to the range with. So what's his gun being used for? What's the gun being used for? Malice. The problem is you can't explain to somebody that you're not a person that would shoot other people. You're the guy that shoots himself. But then a lot of people are like, I don't know, you kind of seem like the guy that shoots other people and then shoots himself. And then, then you're just in an argument at the gun store. I think I would have disagreements with those guys. I mean, about, I'm sure, a lot of stuff, but I could definitely see me trying to get a gun, and then within like 10 minutes, I'm just looking at the guy and I'm like, dog, come on, like I don't even punch walls anymore, man. I stopped doing that shit. And he'd just be like, I don't know, dude. I don't think you can level up to gun yet, I just don't think you're a gun guy yet, which is good. It is good that I don't have a gun. I thought because I don't really like guns, but I did go through a week where I was looking at snub nose revolvers. You know what I mean? It's like a revolver, but the barrel is like that big. Just like bang bang. You know what I mean? Not that I would never shoot anybody, but just having like a bang bang bang, you know, would be fun. And I told my friend, I told Dan, former podcast partner, I told him, I was like, I think it would be fun just to have one. And then he was like, you can't get a gun. And I was like, why? And he was like, you would kill yourself. And I was like, fuck. And I really didn't even consider that. Because I don't really want to kill myself anymore. But also, if you talk about it enough, you're going to have enough friends that are like, dog, you can't be a gun guy. Because I don't think I would be a gun guy. I think I would be a guy that has a gun and maybe shoots himself in the face with it, and that's not who you want to sell a gun to. But also, it is my right. Is it my right? It's my right to have a gun. I think it's my right to kill myself, not under U.S. law. They would definitely assume I don't have friends, though, is the problem. They would be like, because you need a friend to go to a gun range. I don't know if you know that. You can't go to a gun range alone. You have to go with a friend, which is, first off, on the surface level, I guess it definitely makes sense, because it's like if you're going to shoot up the place, you're just not going to come with a friend, like just walking into any place, even if there are already guns there. But if you walk in and you have a gun and you got nobody else there, even in a gun range, people are like, wait a minute. Wait, what are you going to do with that? The gun range is right there, but they're still like, I don't think you're getting past this lobby, buddy. You know what I mean? I think the second reason, though, is just like if you are a guy that has a friend, probably less likely to shoot up a place. Unless you're the boys at Columbine. They really collabed on that one, which is wild, because most of those teen murders, whether it's like a school shooting or anything, somebody always backs down, and then you find out who the true dog is. Because recently, there's an article about a 12-year-old girl who planned with her other 12-year-old friend to kill their parents, and then to drive, I think it was like to Plano, Texas, like to a place in Texas you wouldn't even want to be, which is like, if you're gonna kill your parents and run away, go to Hawaii. You know what I mean? Like, go somewhere fun. Alaska, you can hide there. I don't know. Why Plano, Texas? I'm sure there was a reason, but what are they going to stay with their aunt? You know what I mean? I think she's going to have questions. I would have a lot of questions. Point is, one of them, as always, because you can't trust anybody, fake friends, one of them did not do it. They wussed out on it. And then the other girl shot her dad because she follows through, and then just shot herself in the middle of the street, which is probably, I bet she shot her dad, and she was like, fuck yeah, and then she told her friend, and her friend was like, I'm not doing this shit, and she was like, I have no one in this life, and then just, bam. So, maybe friends can't save you either. I have a lot of friends, though. God, Listen, I've been throwing cigarettes at people's windshields lately, is what I've been up to. Only twice, but it's been the span of like 4 days, which is too much. Am I doing it unprompted? No. Is it justified? Not really. First time, merging onto a freeway, 2 lanes next to each other, merging. Girl on my left merged into my lane, almost hit me. I honked. Kind of a big deal. Very quickly, getting on that freeway, she's like 4 feet away. We're going 20, 30. Just take that cigarette, just bam. You see it hit the windshield. It's kind of like the ash kind of flies up because it hits something. And that's a new one for people, I think. I think that's a new one. I think having a cigarette thrown at their windshield, I don't think it's not been done before. Because now you're wondering, like, is it still on the windshield? Can cigarettes burn windshields? It really it's like throwing out a flare, you know what I mean? It's like, ha, pa, pa, Did that make me feel good in the moment? Fuck yeah. I mean, wow. It's like my Civic became a chariot of the gods. Was she wrong to merge into my lane? Yeah. Should you throw lit cigarettes at people while entering the freeway? No. But it felt good. And that might, be a crime. I think it's probably a crime. I don't think she's looking for me. I don't think the cops are looking for me, but it's probably a crime to just throw lit cigarettes at people's car on the freeway. The other time, a lot less justified. A lot. I was in Hollywood. It was very trafficy. I was in the far right lane. There were cars parked in the lane just beyond the intersection. I was trying to cut in before then. Just trying to cut in. This guy in a BMW wouldn't let me in. What do? Boom. Cigarette on the windshield. Cigarette right on the windshield. Was that guy wrong to not let me in? Not at all. I was trying to cut. I was cutting. I was being a bad person. Which is the epitome of like bad drivers, especially in LA, is you do something fucked, like you try and cut, just wait your turn like I could have, I tried to cut and try to get up there. But then when somebody gets mad at you, big move, and I don't imagine this is just LA, but I feel like LA is pretty, we're pretty alone in our cars and we just don't think about other people. So it's where you do something fucked up, a person gets mad at you, and then you come right back with a fuck you. A completely unjustified one. So that was the cigarette. And I mean, it was funny because the first time I threw it at the other car on the freeway, you see the cigarette hit the windshield and you're like, back in the New York groove. Like you really feel like energy from seeing that, from seeing those sparks fly up. The second time, once I saw the sparks fly up, it was just like, oh, I'm wrong. I am real wrong right now. I'm real wrong. And so I let all the other cars pass. I got some distance in between us. I was not trying to make lights because I was wrong. And I did not want to face being wrong. I faced it within myself, but I was like, that guy could easily just wait for me at a light, follow me, and then try and beat me up. And the thing is, if that had happened, or even if he pulled up next to me and started yelling at me, I would cut him off and I would just be like, hey, you're right. Because that's the kind of anger I have. That's like the small white man anger. That's the two sides of small white man anger is you either become, you're angry and you just don't think about it and then you become Hitler, or you're angry and you think about it, and then you're just a guy who just ruins relationships. And you really don't do a lot in life. Most of your life is acting out, and then you go, I'm sorry, and that's a lot of it. And listen, if you want to do comedy, you can kind of be that guy, but I don't want to be that guy, but I am that guy. That guy is within me. They say there's two wolves in you. Both of the wolves are just that guy. Both of the wolves are wolves they don't have sharp teeth. I'm not a wolf with sharp teeth, but I got big paws, and I'm just clomping around, fully angry, not able to win a fight to save my life, but doing things that can easily start a fight. If that guy wanted to fight me, I would have to get out of my car and be like, all right, I'm telling you right now verbally that I do feel wrong, but also I feel like you do deserve to fight me. So I'm going to let you fight me, and I'm going to, I'll give it my best. I'll give it my all. It's what you deserve, is for me to fight back. But, let's be honest, I'm losing this one, That's how anger is you're living your life. You're singing along to the band, Maybe you're listening to the band, maybe Van Morrison. Maybe on another day, Nas, You're doing whatever you're doing. You're feeling good. And then somebody just lives their life around you. That's it. Just live their life in your vicinity. And that offends you for that guy not wanting to just let me in. Which you didn't have to do. I don't let people in. That's the thing. I don't let people in. And that's where the anger is. You're like, oh, now you're going to do it to me? Of course he's going to do it to you. You do it to other people. You create this cycle yourself. So that's what a lot of it is you exist around other people and you feel entitled to not being bothered by them. And then they bother you, and then you act out. And then if, hopefully, which is in my case, I think for most angry people, hopefully after that you at least feel regret. And some shame. Listen, shame doesn't fix anything, but you got to have at least 10 seconds of shame. At least 10 seconds, not a day. Doesn't need to be 10 seconds a day. When you do something bad, 10 seconds of, I am an absolute piece of garbage. Just 10 seconds of it. Just, I should fucking blow my brains out. I suck so much. And then after that 10 seconds, then you go, I'm not going to kill myself. And then you go, what am I going to do? And you go, I guess I got to calm down. I got to fix it, you know? And then you calm down until next time. That's what unresolved anger issues are. It's like Looney Tunes, you know what I mean? It's like just until next time. Just, it's not a Looney Tunes thing. You know what I mean? Like just Star Trek, like to be continued. Unless you fix your anger issues, it is always to be continued. And anger issues, you know, they're not things that I think are just fixed. They take a while. Being angry is like being an alcoholic, where you're like, you know, I'm not punching walls anymore, but fucking I'm punching pillows, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, you get to a place where you're like, all right, I'm not scaring people in the market anymore, so that's progress. I can be happy about that. But you gotta start with a little shame, you know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of people that don't even know they have anger issues. I think there's a lot of people that just think they rock. Because if you really don't mitigate your anger issues, you end up as a guy that just walks around and sucks, and then when people are pissed off at him, he's just like, that's a fucking rule, man, you fucking loser, you know what I mean? You just get so mad at people, but you think you're right. Because sometimes that's how it is. The thing is, you can be right about something. Like, somebody can be an asshole to you. You just become wrong when all you have to respond with is anger. And that's why, like, the guy that finishes the fight might be the guy that gets in the most trouble. Because people are like, what are you doing? You're beating his ass. And you're like, he fucking used the rest of the milk. You know what I mean? Why'd you beat his ass? You're like, because I pressed the walk button at the crosswalk. I pressed the walk button, and then this motherfucker pressed it himself as if my push wasn't enough. And then you kill him, you know? And then people are like, okay, yeah, it's a little annoying when people press the walk button after you, but you can't kill people, you know? Getting through anger issues is walking around the world and reminding yourself you can't kill people. You can't. You cannot. At all. Not even a little bit. You can't even try. You can't. That's a crime. Attempted. You can't even try it out. Which is good. I'm not saying you should, you know, everybody gets one here. Attempted murder's got to feel weird. Because I bet you're in jail and you're like, I'm glad I didn't murder the guy because I'm going to get out before I would have had I actually murdered him. But it must be weird to be around murderers and you're in there because you couldn't do what they did. There are guys in there that, like, finish the job. And then they're like, what are you in for? And you're like, well, I tried to do what you do, and it didn't work, but I still had to go to jail for it. People are like, how hard you tried? You're like, I tried really hard. To be completely honest, I tried really hard. I made a plan. Did I go on Facebook and post about it? Yes. You know, like, that's... Facebook is where people tell other people they're going to murder them, too. That's really where it happens. That's where the attempted murder things, where you really get in trouble. It's because you're on Facebook and you're, like, just tweeting. You're taking a picture with your hunting rifle and you're tagging Darren. And you're like, Darren, you fucked Lindsay. Guess who's coming to murder you, you know? And then all of a sudden, you know, you got Cincinnati PD at your door infringing on your rights to publicly threaten people on Facebook. That is weird. That's a weird conversation to have about what you can say online, because it does get to a point where you can go online and say you're going to murder somebody. And I feel like that's where the debate kind of ends, where everybody's like, all right, well, not that. And you're like, all right, so a little bit, though. So you mean a little bit we can tell people not to say stuff online? They're like, yeah. And you're like, what about telling other people to murder other people? And a lot of people are like, that's totally fine. That's totally cool. That guy online, you know, like, you get a guy like Andrew Tate who's just like, you should keep a woman in a cage. And everyone's like, I think he can say it. And you're kind of like, I mean, he can. Technically, he has words in a mouth, but I don't really think it should be on YouTube. That's why it's always funny when those guys get banned off of YouTube. because the people that defend them are always just sort of like, oh, well, I know he was crazy, but, and you're like, I don't know, I feel like sometimes you just don't throw the but in there. I would like the but to be thrown in at me. If people think I'm crazy online, I'd like them to throw in a good but for me. I'd appreciate that but, but c'est la vie when in Rome, it is what it is, you know what I mean? You gotta live life. Yeah, anger comes up a lot. I broke a golf club in half the other day. I was golfing. If you don't know anything about golf, I was doing par 3 golf, which is smaller golf. It's not hitting the big clubs. It's not very far. It's really the step above mini putting. It's a big step, but it's just a step above. Low stakes. Absolutely nothing going on. Just drinking Budweisers in a small field with 2 of my friends. No reason to be sad. No reason at all. Just absolutely where a white dude lies. Mentally, physically, and emotionally. On just a patch of land. We love sequestering land and drinking Bud Heavies on it. So I was doing that. I was feeling good. I hit one bad shot, and then I took one of my clubs, and I hit it over my golf bag, and it snapped in half. Which I did not think I could do. Which is a big part of anger issues, is when you break something, and you go, I didn't know I was that strong. How about that? Look at that shit. I just broke that golf club in half. You know what I mean? I thought that was just a little whack. You start to feel like Superman. But one time you can't see it. It's on the other side of this door. It's not a hole, okay? It's not a hole. Did the door crack a little? Yes. I opened it angrily with my fist. I went it was like a Bruce Lee, like a 1-inch punch, and that shit cracked. It's a hollow, very weak door, but you do start to feel like Superman sometimes, where you're like, wow, look at me. How about that? But then you remember that other people can see you and your room and the life you live, and your roommates come by and they're like, what's going on there? And then you tell them it's an accident, and they're like, that's not how accidents happen. That's not, nobody bangs a fist-size hole into the middle, at the fist level of their door. Like, what, are you moving a bookshelf? No, that's not, none of it, it's all, that's very obviously you attacked your door. And to the eyes of anyone else, you attacked it, but anger issues is you being like, well, I only kind of tapped it. And they're like, don't do it at all, though. Just stop. Don't do that. You shouldn't have done that. So I broke that golf club in half. Getting it fixed right now. Pretty cool. It's interesting, though, when anger issues pop up. Because sometimes they just don't. Sometimes you're just so in a disillusioned state. You just don't even feel it. The other day I was golfing. I had the big club, the driver, the big honkin' boy, the big thick one, the big one they hit off the tee. You've seen it before, even if you don't golf. You know what I'm talking about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I think it still is the right podcast for you. It's not a golf podcast. People have layers. Can you be a bipolar stand-up comedian who loves poetry and also like golfing and Buffalo Wild Wings? Apparently, that's a life I'm living. I'm trying to bridge the gap. I'm trying to reach across the aisle is what I'm doing. But I was golfing, and I was hitting the big club. I hit the ball, and then the head of it flew off because it's connected to the shaft. It's not all one piece. It's connected. The head flew off 30 feet. Went farther than the ball. Embarrassing. But I had that moment where I could have screamed and been very angry, but I just looked at it. I looked at the stick that was in my hand that was now broken. I looked to my friends and I was like, I'm going home. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home right now. I'm going to call my girlfriend. And I'm going to not do this today. And it was funny because I'm known as a guy who can get pretty angry. So then I saw him a few days later, the guy I was golfing with, and he was like, hey man, you're a real trooper about it. You're a real trooper about it. Good thing you're in therapy. Which he really drove home the point by saying good thing you're in therapy. You know what I mean? Where he was like, because you are not okay. Also, I'm 23, which is still very young, obviously. Still a child in many senses. You're not done growing. I mean, I'm done growing, but I mean, like, brain-wise, you're not solid. The skull is not even solid yet until you're 25. It's mostly solid, but there's still cracks, you know what I mean? But I'm still young, but too old enough to be being called a trooper, you know what I mean? A trooper is like when your child gets a cut and, like, doesn't cry or something, you know, and you're like, you're really strong, buddy. You played the rest of the soccer game. How about that? How exciting is that? You're a little trooper. That's what you get. You don't want to be called a trooper when you're 23. By then, you should be hopefully accumulating things said about you that are akin to good guy, solid, nice, fun to be around. You don't want to be a guy that people congratulate for not punching the bark off of a tree. You know what I mean? Like, I'm at a level of just a bunch of small occurrences of being angry where I'm almost always trying to not be seen as that person. You know what I mean? Where there's just, it's a constant thing of like, hey, that wasn't so bad. Hey, you didn't punch yourself in the face. Good for you. Like, those are my wins of, like, not punching myself in the face, you know? Which I'll get to. Golf stuff. Golf can make me really angry. I went golfing the other day. I went alone. I went to a big course, 18 holes. I went alone, and I stupidly, in a dumb way, expected to be able to play alone. Which, if you don't golf, this might blow your mind, because it blew mine. But they don't let you just play alone. They don't even let you just play with, like, just a couple of your friends. You almost always have to golf in groups of 4, because there's a lot of people that want to golf, and it's a big course, and golfing takes a while. So there's no time. You can't golf alone, unless you're very rich, I assume. I assume if you're very rich, you can go to a private course and you can golf alone. But even then, the culture, the precedent is that you don't ever really golf alone. And that it's totally normal for the course themselves. You go out there thinking you're going to golf alone. It's completely normal for the course themselves, the guy that you are signing up with at the clubhouse, for him to be like, you're going to golf with him, him, and him. And you look and you just see like a 60-year-old man dressed in a white polo and nice black slacks, looking just rich as hell, and then a 30-year-old in shorts who could be a veteran, but more kind of looks like the guy whose brother is a veteran, you know? And he's wearing like a camo Under Armour polo, like a blue camo Under Armour, and you know he has Oakley's on. And then just like a guy that doesn't speak a lot of English, but he's so much better at golf. Just a guy from Korea who's so much better at golf, and the nicest guy you've ever met. Just demolishing people. And then there's me, who is not so common on the course, but is still around, which is a 23-year-old with anger issues, who is the worst guy to have in your group. He's not the guy you want in the group. He's not a guy who's been golfing enough or been alive long enough to really chill out and have a good time. You look at me and you're like, okay, gonna be an emotional day out here, you know? Gonna be some rough moments, you know? And it was rough from the start. I had to golf with these 3 guys. The 3 guys I explained were pretty much exactly the guys I was golfing with. Started off bad because I was about to tee off alone. I was on that tee, I was surrounded by people, and I was like, if I can hit this ball and I can walk away, I can golf alone. At least for a hole until somebody catches up with me and then forces me to golf with them. Because I'm so bad, I just want to be alone. I just want to suck by myself out there. Which is, I guess, what this is. I want to suck by myself. I do feel much more alone right now, but I'm at the tee. I'm about to tee off. I'm about to hit the ball onto the course and get my day started. This is like a 4-hour operation. Even if you're golfing alone, like 3 or 4 hours. You golf with other people, this shit can be all day. And then this guy is like, hey, you golfing alone? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, can I golf with you? No, he doesn't say that. He says, can we golf with you? Referring to the 2 other fellows around him. And I look back and I go, yeah, but I'm going to slow you down. And then he stared at me with like, this guy's kind of dumb and off-putting. And if I explain to him why his statement doesn't make sense, it might sound kind of rude. Because that statement doesn't make sense because I'm going to slow those guys down either way. They're behind me. They would actually be playing faster by playing with me, even though I'm terrible at golf. And guys who are really good at golfing and are out there alone don't really care about that. They're like, yeah, whatever, I'll golf with you. If you suck, that's fine. Hopefully, you'll just keep the pace. That's what I do. I pick up balls all the time. If I've hit like 7 shots when you're supposed to get to the hole in 4, I'm picking it up. Especially with strangers. I'm not the guy that's fucking out there like, let me finish up. Let me add 5 minutes to every single hole and make this an hour-long fucking operation. So I tell him that. I tell him, I'm like, I'm going to slow you down. And then he just looks at me and he's like, yeah, that's fine. You know, like he just throws a that's fine out there. And I'm like, okay. And in my head, I'm like, this is the worst thing ever. This is the absolute worst thing ever. And immediately my demeanor changes. And people who really love golf and life they understand it, but they're also like, why are you being such a dickhead right now? You know what I mean? They're like, dude, we're out here golfing. You know you're not going to golf alone. What did you think? You're going to come out here and golf? You know that wasn't going to happen. And now you're like pissed. And everybody else is like meeting each other and being nice. And like they all shake hands. And something about the shaking hands with me, I almost felt like I was hanging out with my stepdad being introduced to his friends, you know what I mean? Where it's almost like, hey, like you're different than us 3, you know what I mean? Like, that's how it felt. We start, and I'm golfing terribly. I lost 4 balls on the first hole, which is not unheard of because there's a lot of terrible golfers in the world, but man, is it bad. It's like if you were swimming against Michael Phelps, but you just drowned. You know what I mean? Like, you really weren't even there. It's almost like nothing. There's an extent to golf where if you are so bad, you are not golfing. Because you just hit it and you just lose the ball and you go, all right, I'll hit another. And then you hit it and you lose that ball and you're like, I could do this in my room almost. You know what I mean? Like, I'm barely getting anywhere with it. I could just be alone right now in a hole. And it would be the same. You know what I mean? I'm out there. I lose like 4 balls on the first hole. We get to the second hole. I lose 2. In my head, I'm now telling myself, I'm going to leave. Now, with the reservation, with the cart, especially with the new pack of balls that I bought, I'm like $120 in. Mostly the balls. They're very expensive. They don't have to be, and I don't have to buy expensive ones. But I do, because I like to waste my money. I'm over $100 in on this day, on what's happening right in front of me. Which is great, because golf, you'll spend a bunch of money to be so mad. And the answer is don't be mad. The second answer is I have anger issues, and I'm dumb. So, we get halfway through the second hole. I've lost a total of, I would say 6 to 8 balls. I think I'm actually being generous with the 6. I think it's really 8. You lose 8 balls in 2 holes. There's 18 holes at a go. There's 18. I don't even think I have enough balls to be out here. Let alone also angry. So I'm like, you know what? I'm leaving. I'm halfway through the second hole. I have wasted so much money. I am already furious. I don't feel comfortable. I'm not going to have a good time. I'm leaving. 2 of the guys drive off in their carts. I don't even say goodbye to them. Old guy is in his cart. I just wave to him. I go, I'm leaving. And he does exactly what he should have done, where he looks at me and he just goes, what? Okay. And then he's off. And he didn't even say okay. It was just the vibe of like, what? Whatever. It's like, you haven't even really been a part of this at all. We all know how to golf. You have only lost balls, and you're so mad. I almost could have been like, hey, I don't know. I know I don't even need to say goodbye, but just, it was more so just so they didn't think that I like got lost or something. You know what I mean? And I wonder a lot about the conversation that was had after I left, because I don't think it lasted very long. I don't think they were very interested, but I do think that one guy, probably Oakley's, was like, did he leave? The old guy was like, yeah. And then the other guy was like, he left? I'm like, yeah. They're like, what happened? And they're like, I don't know. He seemed mad. And then they had this moment of like, God, you really don't know who you were around, because that's a guy that just wasted over $100, had a plan to do something for most of the day, got 15 minutes in, and then said, fuck it, and left. Which, those are weird moments, because the win, the mature, the growing would have been to just golf. To golf the whole day, to calm myself down, to make friends with these guys, and to have a good time over a sport that is solo yet also communal. I could have done that. But I also have moments where I say, you know what, I'm so mad right now, I've paid so much money to do this, I don't want to continue doing something that's making me so angry right now, and most importantly, I don't think I'm getting over it right now. I don't think that I'm getting over this today. I don't think that's going to happen. It doesn't feel that way. So I'm gone. I walk off the course. I put the cart back, get my shit. I'm walking out. I'm fuming. I am so mad. I don't like to do this, but I call my girlfriend because I love her so much. She's amazing. And I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. Can I vent? Which I will vent with no warning. So if I'm opening up the vent call with a warning, I mean, it's kind of going to suck. You know what I mean? It's just going to suck, and I try and get through it quick. But I was in my car. I was like, this fucking bullshit sport. You can't just golf alone. You always got to be with somebody. I suck. I just want to be alone. I don't want to do this. I hate this so much. And, you know, she's given all the good advice of like, hey, man, it's okay, you know. Don't hate yourself right now. You already left. It's too late, you know. Have a good rest of the day. She said a lot more than that and very sweet things, you know, but essentially, have a good rest of the day. Also, for the record, she vents to me. It's not a one-way street, okay? We are responsible with our emotions, regardless of everything I have said for the last 30 minutes. I still like to think I'm responsible with my emotions, especially with the people I love. I don't try and throw shit at them every day. But I could, like a fucking Justin Turner, just fucking pitching 95-mile-per-hour fastballs of anger at anybody who will talk to me. I don't get angry at them, but I bring anger from the world, and I speak to them about it, and people are like, okay, all right, okay, Chief, let's calm down. Let's take a breather, you know? So I left. Wasted a bunch of money, and I left. I was in my car. I was like, what am I going to do? I was like, if I go home, I'm going to be so angry. I'm not choking up, but it would be so funny if on the first episode of the first podcast, I just bawl. Maybe that would ingratiate us together as listeners, and I don't know. But I leave. I don't decide to go home. I decide to go back to the place where I just talked about breaking that club, which is the par 3. It's the smaller course. It's cheap. It's not fancy. It's like a Denny's of golf. Anybody can go there. You can suck, and you're really not bothering anybody because everybody sucks. You can go there, and it's a good time. And I go there, and I golf. I drink 4 beers within the span of maybe 40 minutes. It's a very short course. It's only 9 holes, very small. All the holes are very short. You can run through that thing. So I'm essentially kind of pounding beers, Modelo. Only 4, but you're drinking them quick, you know, you're feeling yourself. The entire time I'm just there, drunk, talking about, to myself, talking about, not even different from this podcast, just imagine me pretty much doing this, but I'm in a field, and I'm trying to hit a ball this big into a hole this big that's 119 yards away. It's not going that well, which is so funny about golf, is I left partly because I'm so bad at golf, and I was like, I'm going to go try and make myself feel better over here. But you forget, you're still bad at golf, so you're just going to go suck somewhere else. But this is a much better place to suck, and I told myself, I was like, I got to go to this fucking course where all the people who suck go. I don't belong here. I don't belong on this big course with these three guys. I go to the par 3, and because it's not crowded, you can golf there alone. It's pretty easy to do, actually. So I'm out there alone, drunk, talking to myself about chaos, about how you can't predict where a ball is going to go. You also can't predict what is going to happen in life, and how no amount of preparation can really change what's going to happen. It's like you're gonna do what you're gonna do. And if things are out of your control, you can only do your best to keep them in your control. But sometimes your capabilities are not enough. Sometimes you want the ball to go straight, so you try, you prepare, you think about it, then you hit the ball, and it hits an old lady. And then she's dead, and you go to jail for, 3 to 8 years for involuntary manslaughter, and that sucks. And you prepared as best you could, but it didn't work. So I'm out there, and I'm also just imagine me golfing. I'm talking down. Something about that. I'm talking down to the ground. I'm like, you never fucking know what's going to happen, and then boop. And I go, yep, and that fucking, that sucked. And I am feeling better. I'm not in any actual healthy way, because I'm drunk now. So if you get mad, and then in an hour you feel better, but also within that same hour you drank 4 beers, you can't really act like you worked through something. You can't be like, all right, good shit, man. I'm really got a handle on my emotions, So I golf all 9 holes, get to the 9th hole, I'm 40 feet off of the green, which is where the cup is. The green is the part where you do a little putting, I'm before that. I'm like 40 feet off of that. So I have this club that you use to just get it up in the air, get on the green, and roll and in, and it's a soft shot. But I'm 40 feet away, so I'm not really even expecting to get close to the hole. I'm drunk. I hit it. I hit the ball. It goes in the hole. It's nothing amazing, but at the very least pretty cool. It's the coolest golf shot I've ever hit. And I'm alone. And it feels great. And I know there's somebody in the booth that can see me. I know there might be people eating that might have just saw that. So I just raise up my hands, and I turn, and I look at no one in particular, really looking out to the world, but in myself. And I was like, that's why you keep doing it. That's why you keep going. That's why I didn't go home. That's why you can't kill yourself. Because eventually you might fucking chip it 40 feet off the green and get in the cup. I made a video about it. It didn't get a lot of likes, but the point is, that's why you keep going. That's why you learn from things. You try and learn from stuff. I don't know. I can leave you with this story. This is the worst story ever of my anger, and it's a good introduction to me in the podcast, and maybe how people change and think. It's a simple story. I've been doing comedy, stand-up comedy in LA. At open mics and other places since I was 17. Started when I was 17 in LA. And I'm still angry and dumb and sad, but things have gotten a lot better. Back then, I was a lot worse. I was much more angry. I was angry all the fucking time. And I was going to an open mic one night. I would say I was 18, so I was probably a year into comedy, but I hadn't really ramped up and been doing like 3 open mics a night. I think that was around the time I was doing that, but I wasn't fully ramped up. I'm still new to comedy 6 years in, but that was, very new to comedy. And I was doing this joke, at an open mic, and the joke was about, I used to talk about political things, and I'm so stupid, so I shouldn't, but I was talking about political movements, and I was talking about how white people usually ruin them with our own ego and racism. Where, like, we will try and help, and then we just do some white shit that kind of just fucks everything up. And I was talking about Susan B. Anthony, famous suffragette fighting for women's rights. She did good work, that's undeniable, but there's issues. She had a quote that I mentioned in the joke, where I say, I'm like, Susan B. Anthony was cool, but she also did say, I would rather cut off my right arm than fight for the ballot of the black woman. But she didn't say black woman. She didn't say the word, but she said that word right in the middle. That is, I'm not going to say it, but you get it. Not the N-word, but not the N-word. You know what I mean? Kind of stuff that you would see on the sign of a bathroom in the 1920s. You know what I mean? Telling black folks where to go. That word. That's what I'm saying. She had a good idea, get women the right to vote. But then somebody was like, what about black women? She was like, I'll fucking cut off my right arm. It's like, okay, goddamn, maybe that's an issue with you being the one leading this movement. Maybe it would be better if you thought a little more about the race. So I was talking about that. Somewhat political joke, I guess. I was doing it at this open mic, and there were two old men there who I don't think knew each other, but one would just randomly say incoherent things during people's sets. I was doing my set, and then he said something, and I was like, what? I was like, you've been talking out all night. I don't know what you're saying. And then an old man behind him, who I believed to be like 40. It was dark. I believed him to be like 40. Behind him, he goes, not funny. This is all he said to me. It's all he kept saying to me. Not funny. And I was like, what? He was like, not funny. And I was like, are you heckling a 18-year-old at an open mic? And he just goes, not funny. And I'm like, shut the fuck up, because that's how you beat a guy with anger issues, is you just keep saying the one thing that gets him going. It crushed me. My whole plan was like, I will try and defeat him with words, but I got so mad. I was huffing and puffing. I was like, I'm going to punch you in the fucking face. I was so mad. I got lit early. It's when they tell you to get off stage. They did that early, which makes sense. Not a great set. I got lit early, and in my head, it was bad. Because I had never punched a stranger. I'd never punched a stranger like that before. But I said in my head, I was like, I'm going to punch this guy. It was a scary moment because I told myself, I was like, it's already happened. This is the moment that all my friends talk about, where they're like, oh, you're going to break, And I broke. Told myself I was going to punch this guy. I get literally, I walk off stage. I go directly to him. He's sitting down. He looks up at me. And he says, you fucking suck. But he didn't get to finish the word suck because I went, bam, in the eye to a man sitting down. Complete sucker punch. But that's the thing is if I was any more foreboding, he would have prepared. But because I look like I do, he was like, this fucking pussy's not going to do it. And 99.9% of the time, he would be right. The problem is he was the one. And that's the problem with anger issues. Most of the time, you're fine. But before you get into therapy, and when you're 18, trying to do stand-up comedy, also in a particularly bad place that week, you being around that kind of person, you can become the one. And he was the one that day. And it sucked. It felt good for maybe the half second when my fist was on his face. After, I was like, what the fuck was that? And I immediately left, got in my car, called my girlfriend at the time, different girlfriend. Called my girlfriend at the time. And she was cool, so she was like, damn, that kind of fucking rocks. And I was like, I don't feel good at all. And she was like, yeah, that makes sense, actually. That's pretty bad that you did that. Apparently the cops were called. Apparently an ambulance came. He chose to drive himself to the hospital. The cops met him at the hospital. He made a report. Nothing ever happened. It never went through. There's a process that it goes through a certain office where they say, is this case even worth looking at? And that never even showed up. I got lawyers in the family. You think I didn't call them that same night out of fear of what I had just done? Of course not. But it never happened. Nothing ever happened. And I'm so lucky for that, because that's why anger issues are bad. Because you're a guy like me and you do something dumb, you end up in jail. and I get my ass turned out. You know what I mean? It wouldn't be good for me. I can't act. You have to, if you're going to act like that, you have to be cool with going to jail. And I'm going to be honest. Personally, I'm so uncool with going to jail. I am the most uncool about the possibility of going to jail. There's no amount of me that is cool with jail. Nothing ever happened. He did go to the Hollywood Improv the next day because I guess he had looked at my social media. He had found me. He looked at my social media, and he saw that I was doing a show there, and he showed up looking fucked up, apparently. Just fucked up. And he was like, this guy's crazy. And they were like, all right, well, this didn't happen here, but also you are not going to leave, so we're going to take him off the show. They took me off the show. It was a bad movement. Most important part of the story is he was 65. I was 18 years old. I punched a 65-year-old man in the face. He's probably 70 now. I thought he was 45. I really, in my head, I was like, this guy's 40. I was like, this is a 40-year-old man. And I guess that was my line, where I was like, I haven't punched a 40-year-old dude. The 40-year-old dude, there's still like he could fight back. I didn't know that. He was 65, so there was not much of a fight. And I didn't want to fight. I just wanted to fucking assault someone. I looked him up. He's an old comedian. I looked him up. He's grandkids, which means his grandkids might have seen his fucked up face, and they were like, what happened? He's like, there's a kid in L.A. that is out of his fucking mind. Now, I've gotten better since then. I hope in some way he's been able to forgive me. I like to think I've forgiven myself. Do I think it would be hilarious if I found any success and then he was like, is that the guy? It'd be a very funny thing, especially if he like tweeted about it or something. I don't think he has Twitter, but I'm saying if he like if I had a claim and then he was like, this guy punched me, and then I would just be like, yeah, man, I talked about it on the podcast. Like, yeah, I totally did. 100% that was me. 100%. We can do a podcast together about it. Let's buddy up. I did that. It also pushed me to get into therapy. So I got into therapy and, got on meds. Haven't punched anyone since. Been too afraid to. I don't think I ever will. Have I punched myself in the face past that? Yeah. One time I did a show in Flagstaff, Arizona. It did not go well. I did not love the audience enough. I did not connect. And I closed my set by saying, I wish you all the worst. Worst part is, I'm not even the last comic. I'm bringing up my friend. This is mid-show. I'm saying, I wish you all the worst. I walk outside. I feel so shameful of my performance and the way I treated those people by the end of it. I punched myself in the face. On this side, actually. Just a good hook. And I think I missed the cheek, too, so like right on the jaw. I have bad teeth. I have a molar that is mostly like cement. It's just like parts of the tooth are glued together by cement, practically. I punch it. That shit, bah. It doesn't fall off because it's barely one piece, but parts of it just come off and it like shatters, and now I have this just like half fucked up molar in my mouth. I tell my friend that I just did that, and he just looks at me and goes, don't do that. Which is great advice for people with anger issues. If they tell you they just did something terrible because of anger issues, look at them and just say, don't do that. That thing, don't. Stop it. Do not do that. And I was like, fair enough, Definitely fair enough. I called my parents, and they were like, great. You know who pays for your dental? Us, you fucking idiot. You don't. Thanks a lot. Those are the real moments of anger when you're like, damn, that punch was like at least $500. You know what I mean? So now I don't really, I was going to say I don't do it anymore. I did it like a month ago. Listen, is this a good introduction to a podcast to talk for about 45 minutes about how you're like a certifiably kind of crazy person? Like a kind of guy, I think I'm normal, but I realize that, if I told most people these things to their face, they'd be like, I'm going to go stand over there. You know what I mean? They're like, I don't want to talk to this guy anymore. This is a little much. This is a little much for me. Maybe tone it down, Problem with punching that guy is comedians are so bad that everyone in the comedy scene was like, hey man, don't do that again. But also, that fucking rules, like you get bad lessons. So those are a few of my anger stories. I want this podcast to be a little interactive. So if you listen today and you have some anger stories, send them over any way you want. We got an email, Cooperlydenisalone@gmail.com. Go to the Instagram page, Cooperlydenisalone podcast. DM that. Go on Twitter. It's the same thing, Cooperlydenisalone podcast. Send in your anger stories. Send in anger stories that you've seen. If you want, I can say her name. Keep it anonymous. Now let's keep that going. Every week, if you fuck up and you have something, send it in. We'll talk about it. Because once again, I'm a single parent. You are my child. We're getting through this together, okay? So send in your anger stories. I'd love to hear them. Use the DM as a diary. Maybe I won't. Maybe I might just attract a truly insane man. But that could be great. That could be great to talk about. If you're an insane person who everyone hates, but you need one thing to just message and just say, I fucking got so drunk, I tried to fight everybody at a Chili's, and you got nobody else to tell that to because you suck so much, send it the fuck over, and we'll talk about it. I think that would be good. It's going to be all for now. It's the first episode. If you tuned in, it truly does mean so much. I hope we can build this. I hope it can be fun. I want you guys to be a part of it as much as you can. I want to hear your stories. Right now, it's anger. New things will come. If you listen, you like it, subscribe to the YouTube. Follow all the stuff. Send in your stories. Thank you, and I love you.